War is a furnace that burns away everything. Fear, hesitation, even hope. But inside its flames, some rise higher than anyone thought possible. Tonight, we follow the men and women who did the impossible. Not myths, not legends. Real people, real battles, real courage that defied belief. At March 16, 1968, Sun My Village, Vietnam. A thin mist clung to the paddies. Smoke drifted from burning huts. And above it all, an H-23 Raven helicopter hovered low, its rotor wash rippling across bodies in the mud. Inside the cockpit, Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson Jr. gripped the controls. His voice trembled. "Thompson, my God! What are they doing down there?" Below him, American soldiers were gunning down unarmed civilians. The Vietnam War was entering its most brutal phase. Entire regions were labeled free fire zones. Confusion blurred the line between enemy and innocent. The village below My Lai had been marked as a Viet Cong stronghold. The order passed down was vague, deadly, and unforgiving. Thompson and his two-man crew expected to spot enemy fighters. Instead, they saw the bodies of women, children, and elderly villagers. The stakes were unthinkable. A U.S. pilot was witnessing a crime committed by his own side, and he was the only one in the sky willing to stop it. Thompson radioed battalion command. "There are civilians down there. Get someone to stop this." The reply was cold. "Radio. Roger. Your concern is noted." Below, Charlie Company moved methodically through the village, firing into shelters, tossing grenades into ditches. Thompson stared in disbelief. He circled low, shouting at soldiers on the ground. No one listened. Then he saw a group of terrified villagers running from a burning hut, and a squad of American soldiers closing in. That was the moment he made his choice. Thompson slammed his helicopter down between the civilians and the soldiers. He turned to his door gunner, Specialist Lawrence Colburn. "Thompson, you cover me. If they fire on these people, you fire back." Colburn hesitated, just for a breath, then nodded. Thompson stepped out, hands raised. "These people are unarmed. You're not killing them." The standoff lasted seconds, felt like hours. Finally, the soldiers lowered their rifles. Thompson loaded the Vietnamese civilians into his helicopter. Trip after trip, he flew survivors out of the killing zone. Years later, when asked why he risked everything, Thompson said, "I just thought it was the right thing to do." He was shunned for decades, threatened, ignored, but history remembered. In 1998, the U.S. Army awarded Thompson, Colburn, and Glenn Andreatta the Soldier's Medal for saving lives during the My Lai massacre. In a world consumed by fire, one man refused to let the last flame of humanity die. July 28, 1940, 20,000 feet above the English Channel. A Spitfire Mk-I spiraled toward the sea, black smoke trailing from its shattered engine. Inside, New Zealand-born pilot Al Deer fought with the jammed canopy. At 300 miles per hour, he tried one last desperate move. The Battle of Britain was reaching its crescendo. Fighter command was outnumbered. Pilots were flying 3, sometimes 4 sorties a day. Deer, only 23, had become one of the RAF's most reliable aces. But today, he was alone above a battlefield of sky and sea. 2 Messerschmitt Bf-109s hunted him like wolves. One round struck home, shattering his canopy and exploding inside the cockpit. He was running out of altitude and time. Deer's controls went dead. His engine was little more than a fireball. He knew the odds. Pilots rarely survived bailing out of a spinning fighter. He forced the stick. Nothing. Smoke filled his lungs. He braced his legs and punched the canopy again and again. The channel grew larger beneath him, cold, gray, and merciless. With less than 1,000 feet left, Deer tried something insane. He climbed out of the cockpit while the aircraft was still falling. Wind tore at his body. His foot slipped. He dangled for a moment over the void. Then, the Spitfire snapped apart midair. The blast hurled him clear. Deer pulled his ripcord. The chute opened like a gasp of air. Moments later, the shattered remains of his aircraft slammed into the sea. He was alive. Deere survived 9 crashes, multiple shootdowns, and near-death experiences. When asked how he endured them all, he simply said, "You don't think about dying. You think about flying." The Royal Air Force called him lucky, but history knew the truth. He was too stubborn to fall. June 11, 1945, southern Okinawa. American Marines crept through the maze-like ridges of Konishi. Machine gun fire echoed from unseen cliffs. Then, a lone figure erupted from the smoke. Private Keiyu Sakao, Imperial Japanese Army, charging with a fixed bayonet. The Battle of Okinawa had become a nightmare of caves, mud, and brutality. The Japanese 32nd Army was collapsing. Units were shattered. Ammunition, gone. Food, gone. Sakao's platoon had been wiped out. He was the last survivor. On the American side, the 1st Marine Division faced an enemy that refused to surrender. For Sakao, the war had become something else entirely. A struggle not for victory, but for honor. Marines heard rumors of a ghost, attacking at night, silent, lightning fast, vanishing back into the caves. Sakao scouted their lines alone. He watched. He waited. He slept in the open, wrapped in rags. He survived on leaves and rainwater. Each passing day was a step closer to the inevitable. Then, on June 11th, he saw an American patrol walking near the ridge. He tightened his grip on his rifle. Sakao leapt from hiding with a roar. Marines scattered. Bullets whipped past him. He didn't flinch. He fired his last cartridge, then charged with nothing but steel and fury. 2 Marines tackled him. A 3rd fired. Sakao collapsed, still clutching his bayonet. Witnesses said he never uttered a sound in his final moments. Only a calm, steady breath, as if accepting the weight of a world finally lifted. American officers buried him with full honors. They placed a wooden marker over his grave. "A brave soldier," one Marine wrote home. "In another life, he could have been one of us." In the carnage of Okinawa, Sakao's lonely stand became a quiet reminder. Even in defeat, courage can shine with unbearable brightness. April 1940, the Katyn Forest, near Smolensk. Snowdrifts glowed blue beneath the dawn. A column of exhausted Polish prisoners staggered across the clearing. Among them, Captain Adam Skarzinski dragged his wounded friend, refusing to let him fall. Behind them, Soviet NKVD trucks rumbled closer. After the Soviet invasion of eastern Poland, thousands of officers, professors, and doctors were rounded up, accused of anti-Soviet activity. Secretly, they were being taken to execution sites in the Katyn Forest. Skarzinski sensed something was wrong. The guards were tense. The trucks were driving deeper into the woods, not toward a camp. He realized the truth. This was not a transfer. It was a death march. As the convoy halted briefly, Skarzinski whispered to his friend, "Skarzinski, when I say run, you run." His friend shook his head. He could barely stand. Skarzinski tightened his grip. Far ahead, gunshots cracked. Short bursts, controlled. The line grew quieter. Men prayed under their breath. Skarzinski's heart pounded. The moment was coming. A sudden gust of wind stirred the branches, and the guards turned their heads. Skarzinski seized the moment. He shoved his friend behind a fallen log and dove after him. Shouts erupted. Bullets tore through bark. Snow exploded around them. Skarzinski dragged his friend deeper into the trees, weaving between trunks, crawling through frozen brush. Hours passed. When silence finally fell, they were still alive. They followed the stars north 3 days and nights, until they reached a village willing to hide them. Skarzinski became one of the few survivors to escape Katyn. His testimony would later expose one of the darkest chapters of the war. In a forest built for death, 2 men found a path back to life. February 20th, 1945, Iwo Jima. Mortar blasts shook the volcanic island. Black sand churned under the boots of U.S. Marines. In the middle of the chaos, Private Jack Lucas, only 17 years old, dove into a trench, straight onto a Japanese grenade. Then he saw another grenade roll in beside it. He didn't hesitate. Lucas had lied about his age to join the Marines at 14. By 17, he had one dream left: to fight for his country. On Iwo Jima, the deadliest amphibious assault of the Pacific War, he finally got his chance. Lucas and his three-man fire team advanced through a maze of tunnels when Japanese defenders sprang a trap. Grenades thrown from hidden firing slits. Lucas saw them first. The grenades landed at his feet. There was no time. The trench was too narrow. The fire team had nowhere to go. Lucas made his choice in a heartbeat. He threw himself onto both grenades, pressing them under his body. The blast tore through him. His fire team survived. When the smoke cleared, Marines stared in disbelief. Lucas was alive, barely breathing, barely conscious, but alive. Medics pulled him out, whispering, "How is he still breathing?" Lucas endured 22 surgeries. He recovered, and at age 17, he became one of the youngest recipients of the Medal of Honor in American history. He later said, "I didn't think. I just knew what had to be done." His willingness to sacrifice everything became one of the most astonishing acts of bravery of World War II. Courage is not born in strength or power. It is forged in the quiet decision to rise when every instinct says to fall. From the skies above Europe, to the forests of Poland, to the black sands of Iwo Jima, these men stood alone between death and life, hope and despair, defeat and the impossible. They were not larger-than-life figures. They were ordinary souls placed in extraordinary moments. And in those moments, they chose courage.